Hello everybody, welcome back to the WTF1 podcast. Top comment from the last one was how quick I say the intro, so maybe that's just going to become Race Rundown. Who knows? But anyway, my name's Matt, and joining me for this WTF1 podcast about the new calendar, it's Tom Bellingham, the WTF1 founder. If people had forgotten, it's 2021 now. I know a lot of people might have forgotten what Tommy does and is and was. And of course, Katie, the WTF1 editor. So both of you, Happy New Year, of course, first of all. We'll go through exactly what tracks are on the calendar. But first, how are you? And are you looking forward to chatting about this maybe slightly surprising calendar?
Yeah, very good, thanks. And yeah, looking forward to diving into the new calendar, which has changed already.
Yeah, I had a lovely break over Christmas and New Year, but straight back into F1. And like Tommy says, this new calendar, which has already changed, and we're only a few days into January, so promising start.
And for those wondering, yes, I am wearing the WTF1 hat because we are in lockdown and hair is starting to get long. And I just can't be bothered to sort it out. So I reckon by mid-February, I'm probably going to be wearing a full cagoule and just hood. And just like you won't be able to see an ounce of hair. Anyway, moving on. Calendar. Let's do this. So 23 races. Well, technically 23, even though one of them is TBC. We're going to run you through it. Okay, so round one, Bahrain. Then Italy. Then TBC, which we believe might be Mugello, Spain, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Canada, France, Austria, United Kingdom, Hungary, Belgium, Netherlands. I say Italy, I shouldn't be saying that. I should be saying Imela for round 2, and then round 14 is Monza, and then Sochi. Okay, let's start that again. Sakir, Imola, TBC, Barcelona, Monaco, Baku, Montreal, Le Castellet, Spielberg, Silverstone, Budapest, Spa, Zandvoort, Monza, Sochi, Singapore, Suzuka, Austin, Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Melbourne. Interesting. Jeddah and Yas Island or Abu Dhabi.
Now people are going to think that Sakir is the Bahrain Oval because that was the Sakir Grand Prix. You start again.
Love your work.
I'm joking.
But yeah, of course, obviously the big thing there, I guess, is the fact that Australia, because of the fact that it's just not possible to start their round one due to the situation, the ongoing situation. I hope everybody is still keeping safe and abiding by the rules that whatever governments are set, but most of all, I hope you're all safe. But yeah, Australia wasn't possible to do it for round one. They deemed, so it's in November now, which is rather strange, isn't it?
Very strange. Yeah, it'd be first time since even I started watching F1 when Australia used to be at the end of the calendar. But Melbourne's always been the sort of traditional season opener.
How many jokes do you reckon we're going to see of, Mercedes have already clinched the constructors and the drivers, and then everyone's joking. Round 21, right, round one, we start again.
A lot.
Yeah. Fair.
Calling it
now. So let's get into some questions on the 2021 F1 calendar and some of the ones that you guys have submitted. So we've mentioned Melbourne, of course, China as well, one that... I love China.
Underrated.
Guys, I love China.
Underrated, isn't it?
It is underrated. People will probably not miss it after 23 races. They won't go, oh, we really wish I'd had China. But I will be saying I wish we'd had China. CSR2693 says, might be a stupid question, but why has the decision to postpone Australia and China been taken now? The first race is in March. Can we not wait to see where we are in February, for example? Well, in my opinion, and probably the reason behind it is logistics. It's not as simple as saying, yeah, let's have a race there. It's better to get set in stone exactly where is possible and then go from there. Because if they, for example, put Australia where Bahrain's supposed to be, but then they decide, oh, look, actually, we can't do Australia, then it just puts every circuit into a bit more turmoil like we had last year. So I think that they're trying to go for a safer bet, but I can't see 23 happening anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, the earlier the better for them. I know Australia are in a better situation than a lot of other countries and have locked down their borders, I believe. But I guess the main thing for Australia as well is it's pretty much a street. Well, it is a street circuit. It's in a park, isn't it? So they'd have to start building the track now.
Very good point,
would have at the start of the season. So I think that's why a lot of the rumours came out fairly early that it was, okay, Australia would need to build the track now. Surely this isn't going to happen. And then, unsurprisingly, it's not going to happen. Or at least they think it might be later.
Totally. With, like you say, the street circuit in Australia, unfortunately, it's not a case of just snap your fingers and it appears. You know, we go to some
What?
other circuits. I know, isn't it
What?
amazing?
Do you not just load up the game and then it just... No?
It just pops up. No. Where obviously there are other circuits on the calendar which are permanent tracks and venues. But like Tommy said, the construction of that track starts traditionally end of January. And also Australia has been one of the countries in the world that's sort of really been on it in terms of quarantining and shutting its borders and only allowing certain people into the country. So much so that even drivers like Daniel Ricciardo couldn't go home for Christmas last year because there wasn't enough time for him to arrive in Australia, quarantine for 2 weeks, and then he deemed it wasn't really worth it to see his family for all of 5 minutes and then have to dash off again. So I think it's a shame that Australia won't be starting the new year. I'm one of the unpopular opinion people that thinks that Melbourne isn't actually that bad of a circuit.
Mercedes fan.
Which I'm not a Mercedes fan. I don't know if it's just because
You like starting a season with Mercedes being on pole by 1.5 seconds. All right, fair. Cool.
Melbourne's
Yeah.
quite. I thought you were going to say that you don't like Melbourne. I thought
No, I like
an unpopular
Melbourne.
opinion was that Melbourne. I feel like it's only recently that Melbourne's people have started to sort of question it, and it's been a long time since we've had an absolute barnstormer
I think
of
the
a race.
Yeah.
only reason Melbourne is given, I'm not going to hate on it by any means. I don't mind it as a track, but like the only reason it doesn't get hate is because it's a season opener. Everyone's buzzing to see where the cars are and things like that. That we get lost in the fact that maybe it won't be a great race. So I think that it being the start gives people are like, hey, I'm not going to hate on F1. It's only round one.
I think I've got like rose tinted spectacles of when they used to race there in sort of 2008
back in my day.
2010, when it seemed like they'd start the season there and everyone was just really rusty, and because it's quite a difficult track, you seem to have quite a lot of chaos and people quite a bit of carnage and stuff. But I admit the last sort of few years there haven't provided a world of entertainment because it's just too difficult to pass in the big wide cars.
we will see, won't we, when it is hosted in November, if that
If it's
excitement
hosted.
if the hype is still there. But going back to this person's question about why the decision has been made to postpone Australia and China so soon. Australia, like you say, logistics, building the circuit. But for China, there has been a big spike in coronavirus cases in recent weeks. And I'm sure that they've probably just come to the decision that it's not worth the stress of it all. But it's unfortunate because I agree with you, Matt. I think China is quite an underrated circuit. But like you say, when you get to the end of the calendar, are people really going to look back at it and go, oh, you know, I was really missing China this year or last year? Do people in 2020 and think, oh, I'm really upset we didn't race in China, apart from Matt? But
all right, chill out. F1 2010 time trial world record, whatever what you're saying. Anyway, Bahrain is now going to be the season opener. I'm definitely still not the world record on F1 2010, but was at one point. When I sunk a few 100 hours into that. But anyway, Bahrain is now going to be the season opener. Ruben GNW says, less of a question and more of a statement. Okay. But I feel like Bahrain is going to be a much better season opener than Melbourne. Thoughts? I think if it was Bahrain Outer, it would be a much better season opener. I don't think Bahrain, from what my memory serves me, and it may be wrong, that Bahrain wasn't exactly a banger last year. The actual Bahrain race was.
We've had a few in recent years.
Yeah, I
haven't
mean,
we?
Bahrain's a decent track, don't get me wrong, but I don't think coming off of 2020, we're like, hey, 2021 is going to be awesome because there's not much changing in the regulations. The cars will most likely be in similar performance rankings. But no, I don't think it'll be much better at all. It'll feel weird to start the season in Bahrain, but we have done it before, haven't we?
Yeah, it'd be strange going back there as well so soon after we were last there,
no.
because
Sorry.
it's like
I was
your drink.
picking up my drink, but the mat got stuck to the bottom, and it's a Ferrari mat, by the way, for people wondering, and a bit of leaf. But anyway, carry on. Sorry, Tommy.
Yeah, it's going to be strange going back to Bahrain where we were only there, and it feels like we've just had a race there, and then the first race will be there. Whereas before, obviously, we had the massive gap because it was the end of the season. I think it will be a much better season opener than Melbourne. I think we could expect to see a lot more sort of passing and overtaking
Clip that
at
up.
a track like Bahrain. Yeah, we shall see. I mean, the last time they raced there was the endurance track, and thankfully they're not going to be racing there like they did in 2010. That was the last time they did the season opener, and that was dreadful. But I think Bahrain kind of falls into China, where it's a little bit underrated, and there's been some good races there.
Yeah, I'm not too bothered about who starts the season. Is that a bit of a stupid thing to say? But I think
Katie dropping bombs.
as long
2021.
as it's not
I see what you mean there.
France,
they get
Abu
a free
Dhabi.
pass, don't they? I think.
Yeah.
The first race of the season, you're like, it's fine. I think that happened in this year when F1 finally came back in July, and then you have like a boring race. And I think at the start of the season, we're a bit more like, don't complain. We've been waiting so long for this.
Yeah, I said I was not going to complain, I think, throughout the entire season before it started in 2020, and I think I was complaining by round 2, but that's fine. No, not round 2. That was Styria, which was
Spain.
Good.
Spain.
Yeah,
I think
Spain.
everyone gave up.
Spain was
Yeah.
when I just couldn't hold it in anymore.
Carry on, Katie.
But that's all right. So the testing looks like it's also going to be moved to Bahrain, which will be a couple of weeks before the race. So that's normally held at Barcelona in Spain, but logistics, it just makes more sense to not have it in Spain and then to go to Bahrain, which rhymes. So it's all just going to be sort of kept in the same bubble, I'd imagine. I don't know if that's going to mean that the racing isn't going to be as exciting, because they will literally have been spending 3 days testing there a couple of weeks beforehand.
I was
but
just thinking that I retract my earlier statement of Bahrain's going to be a much better season opener if they're having essentially 5 free practice sessions before they go there.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Yeah,
well,
that's
this
so
is
true.
a bit pessimistic.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to know the ins and outs of that, aren't they? There's not going to be any kind of... Unless... Oh, yeah, but
They change the tyres.
Yeah, I was going to say, change the tyres. I don't know. But yeah.
A mystery tyre.
Oh, that would be game show-esque, wouldn't it? That would be amazing. We interrupt this WTF1 podcast for a very quick chat about our sponsor for this episode, Expressvpn. Expressvpn lets you change your online location so you can control where you want sites to think you're located. Open the app, select a location, tap one button to connect, and refresh the page to access thousands of new shows and movies. You can choose from almost 100 different countries using this app, and you can supercharge your Netflix subscription with way more content. So why should you choose ExpressVPN over others? Well, you can stream in HD, no problem, no buffering or lag. It's compatible with all your devices, phones, laptops, media consoles, smart TVs, and more. Not only does it let you change your location, it also encrypts your data and lets you surf the web safely and anonymously. All you have to do is go to expressvpn.com/WTF1 to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. expressvpn.com/WTF1. Right, back to the podcast. Right, moving on. After Bahrain, we have Imela Round Two, which I think, I put a tweet out actually today saying that, when I was going down the list and saw Imela Round 2, I was like, hello, where's Turkey, Portimao, Mugello? Where's some more iconic random mystery tracks? And it didn't actually turn out that way. But for me, and I still maintain this, and I think I said this last year, that Imola got a free pass because of the fact it's nostalgia. This year, I don't think it's going to get the same reception personally, and I don't think Round 2... I don't know. Obviously, they've done it logistically wise, and I can't complain in that sense. And I'm glad to see Imola back in terms of, again, nostalgia. But at the same time, the racing was sub-optimal, and the cars haven't changed yet. Maybe will it be on the track on the calendar again when the cars are completely changed for 2022? I hope so. So then we can maybe see a bit better racing. But I was a bit underwhelmed, in my opinion, that was the track out of all of them that's definitely on there.
I obviously love Imola. I was really excited to see it back, but I'm not going to pretend that it's the best suited track to modern Formula One cars. In fact, I'd argue that it's probably the worst out of even worse than Mugello for.
Or didn't
Formula
Hamilton
One cars,
say it's going to be a boring race or whatever?
Yeah, and we got a little bit of action thanks to a safety car that kind of jumbled it up at the end a little bit. But it is, I think, if we have another dull race, people will start to be like, oh, the novelty's worn off. I'm quite surprised actually that they, I mean, I guess it's all contracts, but quite surprised that they didn't go for Bahrain outer in that round 2 slot, because essentially they're already in Bahrain.
Already there, yeah.
They don't.
Do you think that
they've
there is
done all their tests?
Do you reckon there is a kind of? It was almost like 2020 was a discount. Oh my god, emergency. We'll have 2 races there. But I feel like, because obviously the circuits have to pay a huge amount of money, don't they, to host an F1 race? And I wonder whether there's conversations that we don't want to do double headers now, or at the same track. I don't know. That's my opinion. That I feel like they were steering away from that for some reason.
And I wonder if, like you say, it's all contracts now, and circuits can't afford to miss out,
especially when there's no fans.
2 years,
potentially
2 years in a row. I guess that's why they're rescheduling later in the year rather than just.
That's a good point that I've just randomly said. But obviously, the fact that the tracks pay to host a race, and yet they're not letting in any fans, so they're not getting any of that money back. So I wonder if there's something around that.
Yeah,
I'd imagine there'd be a reduced rate for hosting the races, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, you make a good point there, Matt.
Formula One, that well-known charitable friendly.
For just £2 a month, you can support F1.
F1 well known at supporting circuits and giving them freebies. I don't know.
That is one thing, though, that you notice. I know it's a very early calendar, but there are no back-to-back races at same circuits and things like that, which is obviously different to last year. But yeah, Imela...
They really blew their chance to do the 3-turn Paul Ricard that we talked about on the last podcast.
They blew a chance of doing a 23 race calendar just at Le Castellet. I mean, to be honest,
all the circuits just have a quarantine camp there, and just full season at Paul Ricard.
You joke about that though, but I know, and I can talk about it a little bit later in terms of street circuits, but I also do stuff with Formula E, which I don't know if that's a bad thing to mention on an F1 podcast. I know, the horror.
No, we like Formula E.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. But I think that's a possible option for them looking at going to Paul Ricard, because organising racing in city centres for street circuits is just an absolute nightmare. And like I say, we'll mention it more in the podcast, but I would not be surprised to see almost all of the street circuits that are on that calendar at the moment just wiped out. And somewhere like Paul Ricard, because it has so many options for different racetracks, is a good option for Formula E, because, you know, looking back to last year and what they did in Berlin, they had the airport, which is just basically a large flat space, and they were able to create circuit layouts that differed, and then just host 6 races there in 9 days. And somewhere like Paul Ricard, as it's out of the way, nice and flat, loads of different circuit layouts, could be a potential option for Formula E this year.
All the people that hate on Formula E and are constantly complaining why they don't like it. Yeah, 6 races at Paul Ricard, that's going to do it.
Yeah,
I think that's going to win them over.
That will finish it up. Well, yeah, because they did so many at the airport, didn't they? But anyway, moving on. TBC race, which is in the round 3 slot, which would have been China, wouldn't it? Yeah. Waggish Riposte says, what Grand Prix should be added in the TBC? That's opening a can of worms, isn't it? It's difficult. Obviously, it has to work logistic-wise, but from my heart and my head, some people were arguing that Turkey obviously wasn't fit for purpose, which, fair enough, yeah, they messed up and the track surface was wrong, but if that was to come back again, that they would fix those problems. You know, I know that they very much were trying to put a plaster over it by sending road cars around there trying to put grip down, but obviously it rained. But no, I feel like any of those tracks were decent enough, and in my opinion, happy to have any of them, to be honest. But it seems like it's going to be Mugello. Is that right?
I heard it was going to be Portimao.
Oh, Portimao, sorry.
It was almost from what I read, it was almost like 90% confirmed that it's going to be Portimao, which I'm sure a lot of us aren't too unhappy with. I guess the only disappointing thing is it's not replaced Barcelona, but because it's like, we joked about it being the cooler Barcelona.
Oh yeah, we're not having double headers at the same track. Enter Barcelona and Portimao.
Yeah, but it seems, from what I've read, it seems like 90% almost certain that Portimao is going to be back, which I'm sure a lot of people will be pleased about. Just a shame that probably won't get fans again, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that it looks like it's going to be Portimao in that slot, which, although there were lots of good things associated with Portimao last year, and the start of the Grand Prix goes down as one of the best starts to a race I've seen in a very, very long time. But unfortunately, the racing and that excitement didn't sort of even itself out throughout the race. We had it from 100 to 0 quite quickly. But I think it makes sense on the calendar to put it there. You know, we're going to be going into the European round super early this year, with the first European round being round 2, which is something that is not normal on the Formula One calendar. Normally we sort of come into the European round end of April, beginning of May. So yeah, although I liked Mugello at the race last year, and it makes logistical sense to have 2 Italian races sort of back to back, but I think it will probably be Portugal, which I'm happy about, to get Portimao on the map a bit more, because I think that's actually quite a good circuit.
Yeah, let's see. But as you say, it's 90% done. I always get Portimao and Mugello mixed up. I don't know why. I just, in my head, they're like the same track. Anyway, they're not. They're definitely not. Moving on. Other changes. So Fitball Fox says, what other races do you think might not go ahead or be postponed? I mean, it's very difficult to base. It's basically a lottery, isn't it? Because coronavirus is changing all the time. Like here in United Kingdom is gone to the worst we've ever seen. So you know, we're in a pretty dire state at the moment, but obviously we're not scheduled till July, and we've got vaccines rolling out. But I think that, you know, in countries it's so different. Like in the US, it's been mad as well, but that's all the way out in October that we've got. We're going to Austin, so it really does depend. I feel like that Brazil as well, I heard that was really, really bad. But there's a lot of time for those countries to get basically back on their feet. I think it's more maybe the start of the season. We might, like Monaco, for example. I can't maybe see that going ahead.
Nah.
It's really difficult to say,
times.
but they have to schedule it in because obviously contracts and stuff, and then they will go ahead and probably cancel it. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, and I think back to the Melbourne thing about how they have to build the track. If I'm looking at the calendar now, if you look at Monaco, Canada, Azerbaijan, that's all street circuits. All 3 of them are in a row quite early in the season. I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of them went, which would then leave a massive hole. And then it's kind of like, what do you do? Does everyone bunch back up?
Here we go.
Because
France Le Castellet, here it comes.
Exactly. It's a really weird situation, because the 3 I'd say at most at risk, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Canada. The race before that is the 9th of May in Spain, and then it's not till the 27th of June that France is on. And then obviously later on, which we'll go into later, you've got absolutely ridiculous bunching up where you're going all over the world in all sorts of odd places, and like you're like dotting around where it doesn't really make sense. So that's a bit of a concern for me, that the 3 sort of ones that I'd be most concerned about are all together, and we might have a big gap in the calendar, and then they're gonna have to start shuffling it around again. And then who knows what's going on with contracts and stuff then.
I can totally see that happening. I think most street circuits, if not all street circuits, so places like Singapore as well, which I know is in October, but I wouldn't be surprised to see all of them just wiped off the calendar. Going back to Formula E, which they are meant to be racing in Monaco. Normally they race 2 weeks beforehand, so Monaco will alternate between Formula E and like their historic races that they do. But they have basically on their website completely erased any kind of race calendar for the new season, which is of a huge concern to a journalist like me covering it, because there's literally not even a provisional plan of what's going on. So I would imagine if things like Monaco have been taken off the website, then that's quite a big indication that we're probably not going to be going there with F1 either.
Yeah, it's a shame for Tommy. Best qualifying of the year. But yeah,
3 years of that Monaco, I'm going to be absolutely distraught. It's just not right, is it?
3 years.
We'll set up you for charitable
Well,
donations.
since 20.
Oh,
I guess by the time we're back, it would have been 3 years.
Well,
potentially. Who knows?
God, yeah. Fingers crossed. I have hope for Singapore going ahead just purely because it's in October and the whole world is working towards fixing the situation. So fingers crossed. Towards the end of the year, we get back to a bit more normality. So that would be good. But yeah, I completely agree. Monaco, Azerbaijan, Canada. I imagine there's some sort of backup plan that Formula One have sorted. I can't imagine they've gone 23 rounds. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll revisit this in March. I don't think that's the case. I think they'll have something in place. I wonder what that will be. Maybe they have Turkey and the likes of Mugello just on the phone ready to host, because they've already proved that they can. Well, maybe Mugello has, Turkey maybe not. Proved that they can host a race. So maybe they are backups that we don't know of just yet. I would like to think that's the case, especially with them being in Europe as well. So, okay, cool. Right, moving on. Let's get into some more questions. I was actually looking at the calendar, so I've missed where I am. Here we go. 3 triple headers at the end of the year. Goodness.
Yikes.
Goodness gracious me. I mean, the poor teams are looking at that and probably getting a little bit lightheaded. Simeister asks, Brazil, Australia, Saudi Arabia. Surely this is not the best logistics. To firm up the 2021 calendar, should they not just drop Australia if its traditional slot is not possible? Yeah, I mean, I guess the Saudi Arabia one money talks. Not a fan, obviously, of that being on the calendar due to a lot of human rights issues. But the thing is, that's unfortunately Formula One seem to just kind of, go with it and go with the flow, and money unfortunately does talk. That's the reason we go to Abu Dhabi as well, because there's huge amounts of money and that the circuit doesn't really bring a huge amount. But I think that there is going from Brazil to Australia to Saudi Arabia does not work at all.
It's such it's so odd, isn't it?
But that's I'm sure there's a lot of money involved there. Australia probably, again, it's probably contractual in the fact that Australia want to be on the calendar and they've said, look, okay, well, we can't do it now. When can we do? So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of air miles, that's for sure. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that, to me, the Australia sort of date seems to just be a placeholder that they've gone, here's a gap. You can just sit here for a while until we decide. As almost a way of them saying it's not cancelled, but because, like you say, the logistics of that is just an absolute nightmare. Really, it seems very odd to do a triple header in these circumstances. Obviously, we hope things are better, but if they're not, all the stuff you have to go through with COVID tests and quarantine and stuff, and then to go dot between countries, it seems strange that, I guess, again, it goes back to contracts, but I think we've had this conversation before, Katie, where last year they decided Europe as one thing, then Asia, then they were going to do the Americas, weren't they? But unfortunately that didn't happen. But it seemed like a logical thing to do, where they just said, right, who can host circuits? Let's make a more sensible calendar here where we cut down on air miles and we can do something that makes a little more sense, rather than going Brazil, Australia, Saudi Arabia, which is just very odd.
It's funny, last year they said F1 have got their lowest air miles in so many years, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, because you're not going anywhere. So
yeah,
but yeah, you mentioned that Australia's sort of been wedged in there for round 21, but F1 have actually moved Brazil, and I always get this the wrong way, they've moved Brazil forward and they've pushed Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi back a week, which means that the calendar finishes a week later than it was originally scheduled, which means we're just getting ever closer to Christmas, which is not ideal. So
only a matter of time before Abu Dhabi is on Christmas Day, isn't it?
Oh, don't stress me out like that. But perhaps it's that Australia, I mean, we saw last year with Melbourne that F1 were all up for cancelling the Grand Prix and saying this isn't safe, we can't do it. But the promoters of the Australian Grand Prix were so persistent, and that's why the decision supposedly took so long to make, because it was just arguing back and forth between the two parties. So perhaps the promoters have, said, we're really not impressed that we weren't able to make it on the calendar last year. We want it to be that, even if it's a provisional date, that Australia is on the calendar. But it is a bit daft having to hopscotch from one continent to another, and in a triple header. It's just going to be ridiculous. And I, like you guys have said, I'm having a moment to think about the poor teams that are having to travel with all of the equipment and get themselves ready for those race weekends.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I can understand to a degree the arguments that they would have had last year, where COVID wasn't particularly understood and that sort of stuff. Like, it was, we were still very much trying to get underway, and it was clear that it was a big problem in across the whole world. But I can kind of understand. Well, not understand. I can see why the big money men are like, yeah, well, I'm not going to do this, or women are going to say, look, let's ignore it, but let's go ahead with it. Let's just, we're here now, and I'm sure that's probably where the frustration was the fact that all the teams were there and ready to race. So yeah, it's an odd one, and yeah, it does seem very much like a placeholder, and Australia being very far away from everyone. It doesn't help either. It's not like we can just pop over there. So it'd be interesting. If that does go ahead, I'll be very surprised, because that is a very odd, probably the biggest in terms of distance-wise triple header we've ever had. That's just a fact that I'm throwing without any kind of knowledge, but I feel like that's true.
Yeah,
sounds about right.
It sounds about right.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for backing me up. Cheers.
Or what do you want me to?
Correct.
Sorry, I've not got time to get on Google Maps and look it up.
It's all good. Right, another question. Lego Runman. Do you think we will get the full 23 or more like 16? Yeah, I mean, I said at the beginning, I don't think that we'll get the full 23. We've already said that the Monaco, Azerbaijan, Canada trio is more than likely going to get cancelled, but maybe they get covered over by other tracks that we've mentioned. So I don't think we'll see 23. I don't want that 23 in a normal season, personally. I felt like I got so used to Formula One being on, and it didn't lose the magic as such. But when you get to a certain amount, you just expect it on every weekend. And I don't know, Formula One's special to me, and I think the more races they add, not the less special it becomes, but the less of a novelty of the fact that it's on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I was looking at the calendar. What did we have last year? 16. Was it 16 last year?
16.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely less than 20. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's more 17 again, 16, 17 again, personally. Like I say, I mean, even film. Just looking... Sorry. Even the ones we've mentioned, that's 4 of them gone already. So that takes you down to 19. And then you're looking at others thinking, if things don't get better in certain countries, it's looking unlikely. But you never know. Maybe we do get 23 at Paul Ricard.
Don't do this to me, Tommy. Don't say these things.
Kate's going to bring up Formula E again. Careful.
No.
I think Formula E. I think we're going to have to get on Formula E here, because I think they've stolen our idea of Paul Ricard. They've listened to our podcast.
Copyright.
And gone, that's a brilliant idea. We were joking, guys. We were joking.
But I'm agreeing with you there, Tommy. I think probably about 16, 17 races. No way is there going to be the 23. And like you say, looking at the calendar now, there are probably 3 or 4 that you can strike off immediately. And unfortunately, unless coronavirus just decides I'm going to vanish overnight, which is not something that I don't think is scientifically possible.
Apart from on Christmas Day, apparently, according to our Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's all right.
For fear of getting political. That was just a joke. Anyway, carry on.
But yeah, I can't see 23 races happening. And I'd be surprised if... I know we've only just started the season, but when they inevitably put out another calendar for 2022... they're probably going to try and do the same thing again.
800 races.
Yeah, a race every day.
Yeah, we now race on Wednesdays
races.
as well.
All right, let's have predictions then. I reckon there's going to be 18 races.
16.
I'll go 17.
Lovely. We definitely won't revisit that, but we've done predictions. Lovely. Okay, right. Well, we're actually at the final part of the podcast now for Tommy, which is final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I guess.
Oh no! Why would you do that?
I know you love it. I guess if anyone can do this, Formula One can. It's surprising.
Wow. Hello.
Where is my sick bucket?
Hello, cliche.
I know, but I mean, being serious for 30 seconds of my life, yeah, the fact that they somehow managed to put on 16 races last year was pretty incredible. So I'm pretty sure it's going to change, like we've been mentioning, but I'm sure we will get a lot of races still. And yeah, good luck to them, because it's not going to be easy.
My prediction will be that we have the return of maybe Mugello, and let's say Turkey for the sake of it, to replace the street circuits that I think we're going to get rid of.
Are we doing predictions? So I didn't. Did you make a prediction, Tommy?
Oh no! Sorry.
Final
Well, that's my final thought.
I guess your
Katie's
final
like,
thought is a prediction.
I'm going to throw another prediction in here.
I hate doing predictions at the best of times, so I don't know why I've just contributed voluntary.
I know. I was like, okay. Anyway, so Katie, final thoughts, but that can include a prediction if you really want it.
My final thoughts is that we're going to go back to Mugello. No, yeah, I think Formula One did a stunning job last year under the most unusual and extreme circumstances. Although looking at this calendar, there's some bits of it that are quite risky and quite unusual in the case of where we're going to and from races, but I'm sure it will sort itself out.
Fingers crossed.
I'm sure
there you
that's
go.
what the F1 are saying. It'll work out.
Katie Fairman, I'm sure it will work out. I can see the headlines now.
Love it.
Right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening, wherever you are. Make sure to give us 5 stars, a thumbs up, whatever you're doing or listening, and use the hashtag WTF1 podcast to get involved with future episodes. And my final thoughts is that I hope we get as many as we can safely manage, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I also hope, as I said at the start, that everyone that's watching and listening is staying safe, and that's it, pretty much. Oh yeah, also make sure to check out Expressvpn, the sponsor of this episode. That would be awesome. They're a staple of this podcast now. But yeah, that's it, I think. Like, subscribe, follow, rate us. That's what it says in the document. I just thought I'd read out what you wrote, Tommy. And then it says bye with loads of E's. So Katie, Tommy, thank you so much. And I'm going to wave. So bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.